Hi, I'm Mark McCulley, and welcome again to our journey through Advent toward Christmas. And today, P is for poverty. Really? Poverty? Well, what's that about? Especially in relation to this time of year when everything seems to be there's so much of it. And it seems like we're buying all kinds of wonderful things. You might have read the Mark Twain story from the late 1800s that he wrote called The Prince and the Pauper, pauper meaning a poor person. It turns out that there were in this story two boys who looked remarkably alike, who one was a prince and the other was a poor little beggar, worker, peasant person. And they met one day by chance and saw each other's similarities and decided on a lark to change clothes, to trade clothes with each other and pretend to be the other for a day. Well, as things happened, it went on longer than a day, and all kinds of lessons and adventures ensued. The prince learned an awful lot about what it was like to be an ordinary poor citizen of his country. And the peasant learned an awful lot about how a prince's life is not just indolence and indulgence and laziness and getting everybody else to do what you want, that there were actually responsibilities. Each of them learned that the other's life was not nearly so simple as they thought. And as it turned out in the end, the prince, from what he had learned and from what he had seen the young poor man, the pauper, grow in and learn in, had decided to give him a position of importance in his kingdom based on what he had come to be. And it's a very interesting tale, but in a way not far from the truth. Why is that? Well, we've mentioned already that Jesus was born in ordinary and even poor conditions, circumstances that we might regard today as poverty. He was born in a little village in a backwater country in a corner of the Roman Empire that was only famous because it was a place for armies to march through on their way to somewhere else. And most of the people there were poor. And he was born right into that poverty and that everyday hard work, not into a king's palace, even though Jesus was the Son of God, Prince of the universe. He wasn't seen that way on this earth. He was born into the other person's way of life and way of seeing things. And did he learn a lot? Yes, indeed. Scripture shows that he indeed took on our own human flesh, and he learned a lot about being in the flesh and being what it was like to be like us and carry ourselves around in this human carcass. And as a result, he grew even in empathy in what he began to know about us. He welcomed all kinds of people into his life because he saw what their pain was like. He reached out his hand to heal. Living on this planet with us in the dust, he had compassion on other people, and he accepted into his circle of friendship and love and acceptance all kinds of people, notorious sinners, prostitutes, people that other people rejected completely, the sick, even lepers, people with dread diseases. And he healed them and he cared for them and he spoke kindly to them and he told them that their sins were forgiven. The things that they had done against other people were all wiped away. He saw our lives as they are, with hunger and fatigue and want and worry and wonder. And he lived it just like us. He came to do more than that, though. Jesus came to show us who God is, because God was not anymore some distant person off in the universe somewhere. He was right here among us. The word Emmanuel, you may have heard, means God with us, and that's who Jesus was. And he showed us the heart of the Father as some have said, God has always been like Jesus. God is still like Jesus. We didn't know that before, but now we do. And so Jesus showed us what God really is like by his own life, because he also came not only to be with us, but to lift us out of our own spiritual poverty and give us riches. In a letter to one of the churches in Greece, explaining more about Jesus and what he's done for us, the writer says, he became poor so that we could become rich. He became poor down here on the earth so he could make us spiritually rich forever. He came down from heaven, spotless place of total comfort and no concerns, down to this earth, which, as you and I know, if we just look around, has plenty of concerns. How did we become rich? Well, in his time on earth, he opened up the circle of God's love for us to step into. He invited us into. In fact, he took us on himself and carried us into that circle of love by what I said, healing people and inviting them to accept what God said about how much he loved them. And he healed many people completely and unilaterally and dramatically. And you and me, well, you and I are also invited into that circle of love, that eternal fellowship and unity and community that God has been opened up to us because God came to live with us and be among us and be like us. And now we are invited by him into that same love, the same love that has existed forever, and the same love that Jesus showed all those people all that long ago. It's like being adopted into a family that has everything, but they're happy to see us. They're not rejecting us because we're poor. They're happier to see us than we are to see them. And we're brought in with open arms to not only everything in the physical sense, but everything in the relational sense too. All that love given to us for free. Want some? Maybe this is the time to finally say yes and accept that invitation into that circle of love and become infinitely rich. I'm Mark McCulley. Thanks for watching. God bless you.